We've been keeping tabs on the I-5 bridge replacement project between Portland and Vancouver. The leader is soon stepping down. A new cost estimate is expected next month, and a critical hurdle involving the U.S. Coast Guard is ahead. And it's our big story tonight. So the Interstate Bridge Replacement Team, or IBR, has submitted its updated report to the U.S. Coast Guard. The big issue is the height of the new bridge and how that relates to clearance for boats passing underneath. Even though we're less than a year away from construction starting, if all goes to plan, we still don't know for sure how tall this thing is going to be and whether it will be a fixed span or include a movable span.
Movable spans are notoriously expensive and notoriously difficult to manage. You have built-in operations and maintenance costs forever because you have to staff it 365 days a year.
The IBR team has a clear preference. They want a fixed span and they want it to be 116 feet high, but they don't get the final say. It's ultimately up to the Coast Guard because they need to issue a permit before construction can begin. Now, this has been a thorny issue all the way back to the failed Columbia River crossing plan more than a decade ago. Here's why. The current drawbridge can lift all the way to 178 feet, which is what the Coast Guard and others have been working with for more than a century.
The Coast Guard, their sole interest is in is river traffic being impeded. So we don't criticize the Coast Guard. That's their mission and we understand it. But we think we have put forth a solution that can satisfy all needs and all users, both on the river and in those other modes.
That solution that Johnson referenced earlier is what the updated report is all about, which stresses that the 116-foot option is enough for 99% of river traffic. But what about that remaining 1%? In each case, the report says IBR reached a confidential agreement with the companies to mitigate those impacts. In a news release on Tuesday, IBR said all of those agreements total around $140 million. The team argues that's a bargain when you compare it to a movable span design, which they say would cost at least $500 million more for construction and cost about $1 million more per year to run. Okay, the last time IBR asked the Coast Guard for its opinion, it took closer to 6 months to get an answer. So 3 months is the best case scenario. But if the Coast Guard does approve 116 feet, the process for the formal permit can begin. If it's denied, then IBR will need to switch gears and build a drawbridge. But here's the kicker. When it comes to that 116-foot bridge height, the Coast Guard already approved that number way back in 2013 for the failed Columbia River crossing project. It was the Washington legislature that ultimately doomed that plan, failing to pass key funding at the time. The Coast Guard's approval expired after 3 years, so IBR had to start from scratch. So now, the hope is that if the Coast Guard already said yes to the 116 feet in the past, they could do it again. Well, we'll have to wait until at least February to find out.